Agitate really spicy salsa. And by really spicy, I mean simply medium.
What, give me an insight into what your salsa is.
Yeah, the canned salsa.
Sorry. You said you said passe?
Passe. Is that what it is?
Oh no, I mean that's probably the correct way of pronouncing it, I would assume.
Yeah, Josiah, you might be too young for this. This is the salsa that when I was a kid, there would be these advertisements about New York City Pace Picante salsa. It was Pace.
Pace?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's so interesting.
But if it's salsa and it's like spelled like that, it makes much more sense to call it passe. That's
probably
Spanish.
how you pronounce it. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say that's the salsa I grew up. That's the salsa I grew up eating probably the most. That's what my parents would always get. But we just never pronounced the brand name. It's just salsa. That just is what salsa is.
The big one in Texas is Julio's.
I've also got to say that the house salsa for your tortilla chips at literally any Mexican restaurant on the planet, undefeated.
Oh yeah, way better than
undefeated.
Yeah,
the house salsa. I'm not just paste, but you can't get a salsa better than that at the grocery store. You literally can't. That salsa is
I almost made homemade salsa the other day. I used to work at my family's restaurant and make homemade salsa, and I almost made it the other day, but Josiah didn't want to clean the kitchen. So instead I got a jar of salsa.
Okay. Look.
So
so
that's how I'm eating this very spicy jarred salsa.
That's fantastic.
Man,
we should let's talk about
Kim was here right now.
Though.
If Kim was here right now, she'd be like, "Man, I almost wore this thing the other day, but Chris didn't fold the fucking laundry."
Yeah.
So I understand, Josiah. The kitchen is my domain, and I do not do the fucking laundry because fuck that shit. I hate that goddamn shit.
I hate it, man. Oh man.
All right. Yeah.
Well,
all right.
laundry is my
book
favorite
book
color.
time.
Let's tackle this book, bro. You're listening to Fruitless, a podcast hosted by me, Josiah Sutton. This is the beginning of a series within the show that I'm going to be doing with Chris Barker, where we read books. Today's episode is episode 14 of the show, episode 1 of the book club, The Basque History of the World. And I'm hoping to make new stuff like this as time goes on. Fruitless is back, I think. Maybe, let's see. I have some fun stuff in the works outside of just the interview model that the show has been, so look forward to it, I guess, and enjoy the show. Real quick, I will say, this is technically a podcast. We are officially recording, so it is a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to kind of a series within Fruitless, to get me making fliss again, that I believe we're calling the Barker Bookclub. Is that what we're rolling with? Because I kind of like it. Yeah, that's what I said. I said I like because Fruitless is my brand, so my name's already implied.
Well, all right.
But this is Chris Barker.
I kind of like the idea of Josiah and Chris read a book.
It is Josiah and Chris read a book. Whatever the name ends up being, that's the premise. At the end of the day, is Chris and I both have a long list of nonfiction books that we want to read, but need the push to read, and so we are going to go back and forth once a month-ish, picking out a book. And this month was Chris, and Chris picked out The Basque History of the World. So why don't you tell us a little... Oh, and also my girlfriend, Kelly, who I believe likes to also be called Chimera right now in podcast stuff. That's going to be coming out soon. Cool. So, that's going to be her little cool code name. But Chimera is here listening in on her iPad, so she might chime in. She's not read the book, but if she thinks we're just talking out our ass, she'll call us out.
Which we might be.
I have not read the book, but I love to interrupt men, so I'm here for the evening.
Oh, well...
I have to keep them humble.
Chris, what and she might read the next month's book and start joining us. But Chris, what?
Oh man,
what was
well,
the
get
book
ready
you
to be
picked?
sad, Chimera.
Oh yeah, the next one's gonna be rough. This one was a little less rough. It wasn't too. It had its sad moments, but it was
Yeah, I kind
it
of
had a
got
lot of
lucky
moments.
with this one.
Yeah, this one's not too much of a. Yeah, so Chris, what's the book? Tell us about it. All that good shit.
Yeah, so this is a writer, Mark Kurlansky, who I'd read before. He has a book, well, I'm assuming he has a book called Nonviolence, The History of a Dangerous Idea, that I remember reading when I was in college and being like, dang, I really like that book. And I still have it, and I haven't revisited it in a while, so I don't really know how well it holds up. But he's written a bunch of other books. He's got a history of cod, the fish.
Yeah, he's also got that salt history, which seems cool.
Yep.
Salt, yeah. And then I was gonna quickly mention he's got a history of 1968, the revolts of 1968. That might be a future appearance on this series if we keep doing it, because that's been on my list for a while. I didn't actually realize it was the same author.
Yeah, so this guy seems like he's a dude who's got just like a little bit of an askew perspective on world history and kind of wants to look at stuff that people don't really look at things and places and peoples that people don't really spend much time on. And so when I saw that there was this book, I bought it several years ago and I just hadn't gotten around to it. And then when I was talking to Josiah about starting this, I was like, well, let's read this book. I don't know anything about these people.
Yeah, so it's the Basque history of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is not an academic history. Like, this is a popular history book. So, like, don't come into this expecting, the most rigorous scholarship or anything like that. Like, this book has recipes in it, which I did dog mark because I do want to try some of them.
I would love to hear about it if you try them. I don't think I like fish enough to do them though, because they're very fish oriented, and I am not a big fish guy.
Love fish.
Yeah. I'll love to hear about it. Yeah.
But like, there are a bunch of recipes in this book. Like, that is not what happens in an academic book of history. But it felt like a really, really good overview of like what was going on with these people. I mean, I think the best thing you could say about it is this book made me want to know more about the Basques.
Yes, and I mean that's at the end of the day.
And it made me want to know more about the Basque like diaspora as well.
Yeah, because did it ever talk about like I know Jake, who might appear in future iterations of this, but someone who also read the book had sent us the link to that Iceland, the thing about Iceland having laws about being able to kill Basques until 2015. That wasn't in the book, was it? Was there anything about the Icelandic
He didn't even talk about that. At least as far as I can remember, what? He didn't even talk about that. And like, the Basques were like liable to be shot on sight.
Yeah, apparently it was legal to kill a Basque just for no reason. As long as you know they're Basque, you could kill them in Iceland until 2015.
Like,
oh my
God, these people made enemies.
They really did. That's insane. But no, it's mostly focused on Spain.
Well, and this is also another thing that he didn't really go that much into. But like, okay, do you remember when you were in high school and shit, and you would be reading Shakespeare, and there would be some stuff about the King of Navarre?
Yeah. Wait. Yeah, you're right.
That's these people.
I know.
That's these people.
Okay.
And like the King of Navarre. But like the King of Navarre in so much medieval literature is like this little like trickster god hanging out in the fucking mountains, making people's lives miserable. And you're like, what's going on over there? And now I read this book and I was like, oh, they just really didn't want you to mess with them. That's what was going on.
They were just like, leave me alone. That's all they were doing. Yeah. And they kept secrets because they were whalers.
Because they were whalers and they didn't speak your language.
So they seemed all mysterious.
And they did not want to speak your language.
I was going to say, the one that I was really interested in with this was the Jesuits. being Ignatius being Basque. I did not know that, which also hilarious open door for conspiracy theories there, that like the Basques run the world through the Jesuits. That was something I was laughing about in my head.
Yeah,
that
I think that's a good new like incipient one. That's a one that we should like really try to like slip into the discourse of like, it's not
get really into the Basques for a while.
Yeah, it's not Jewish folks who run the world, it's the Basques.
Yeah.
This like 500,000 strong group of folks in the borderlands of Spain and France. Like these are actually like the people who run the world. Sorry, just to be clear, I do not believe that.
No, they seem lovely.
And I also disavow Jewish conspiracy theories.
Yeah, that's bad.
Bullshit. Jewish people are good.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Sorry. I talked myself into a cul-de-sac and I need to get out of it again.
Yeah. Real quick, my computer's lagging up a bunch, so I'm turning the video off, so I apologize for
all right.
disappearing.
No, you're good.
But, yeah, because I was telling the gap between when I would hear what you said and when I saw your lips moving was like a minute. It was pretty funny.
Oh no. That's suboptimal.
Yeah, that does not seem to be working out. No, I do like the Basque conspiracy thing could be a pretty funny bit, but
it would be a funny bit, but like, you know,
that's a good reoccurring.
They don't need help.
That's true. They have been picked on a lot, and they've been picked on specifically by, I would say the main focus of the book ends up being Spanish history primarily, but like Basque's role in Spanish history. That's a good chunk of it, especially toward the end.
Yeah, I would kind of want to press Kurlansky a little bit more about like how the Basques are treated in France, because it's not super evident in this book. Like, I mean, we know how totalizing France's idea of France is.
Oh, especially the language. The enforcement of language after the Napoleonic Wars was like pretty brutal. Yeah, so it probably affected them.
Yeah, and so like, I'm just like, I know that there is still Basque country on that side of the Pyrenees in those first two departments in France. But Kurlansky didn't really talk about that because most of the Basque people live in Spain, and that's fair. Like, that's your focus. But I mean, there had to have been
Don't quote me on this, but if I'm correct, because my audiobook of this ended with a short interview with him and Olive, so I might be wrong about this, but if I'm correct, he got the idea to write about the Basque specifically, I think while he was in Spain covering the Franco regime as a journalist, because he was a journalist as well. And so I think he was a little biased toward the Spanish Basques because that was where he got kind of introduced to it as a subject.
Yeah, I think he talked about that in what functions as the preface to the book.
Yeah.
That he was like, you know, in these Spanish cafes, and there were people who like wouldn't talk to him, and he like eventually like heard them talking in not Spanish, and was like,
yes,
hey, what's going on there?
What's going on over there? What are your secrets?
He like finally started getting stuff out of him. I mean, like derailing slightly, but like there are a lot of Russians in Chattanooga right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I'll be at work, and I just kind of use some Russian phrases as like everyday things that I say because I live there and I know the language.
Yes.
And so I'll hear Russians come in, or Russian speakers. I can't always like peg exactly
where they're from. Yeah.
But I'll hear it and I'll be like, oh man, I'm catching like every third word. I basically know what you're saying. But then they just like go to their table or whatever. But then I'll be like behind the bar and I'll pick up a ticket and be like, hey, что это? And then I'll see people go, what did he just say? Like, oh, whoops.
Because like we behind the scenes we worked at a coffee shop together a few years like back at this point. Like I remember you doing that occasionally, but you know, like it's like, oh, that's just Chris. I don't know what that means. It's just a thing he says.
Yeah. Yeah, but also, you know, if I'm like throwing if I'm like gesturing Italianly with a ticket at you and going,
yeah, you know what you're saying. You're like, why isn't this getting made? Yeah, why isn't it getting made? Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. Or like I'll be working in the kitchen and I'll throw some food in the pass and I'll just say like Yedi Gariachi. That means hot food in Russian.
Yeah.
And then like you'll see like the Russian speakers like perk up like, what the fuck?
That's really
like,
interesting. I didn't know there was such a big Russian population there.
I think there are a lot of people who don't want to live in Russia right now. And I can't really
I wonder why.
And yeah, I wonder why. But I can't remember exactly why I got on this digression.
No, because you're talking about he was, you know, Kurlansky was like hearing like people speaking Basque.
Oh yeah, that's it.
And you know, in like coffee shops and stuff in Spain, secretly.
Yeah,
mind
and so
you.
it's just like it's totally like because like everyone who is speaking Russian when they come into the shop right now are like, no, почему no нет да no negoda, right? Like it's everything is like very quiet.
Yeah.
They do not want us to know what they're doing.
Yeah,
which is fine because like I think that they've got like a pretty decent fear that like, hey, Americans probably don't want to hear Russian right now. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here going,
you know, you're just barking out Russian.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, that's that's a good. Okay, that actually is a really good, interesting comparison of what we're talking about here. Yeah, I see the connection now because, like, the thing about the Basques is when they were being that way, everyone would be like, "Well, what are their secrets? They're so secretive." But it was like, you know, the reason they're doing that is because under when we talk about like later on, it's like Francoist Spain, it's illegal for them to be talking in their language. Yeah. Which
when Kurlansky was first there, they you can't do that.
Yeah, and like that was of course a period, you know, a big source of ire that led to an assassination of a Spanish official at some point. All sorts of cool stuff. But,
yeah, old boy got his fucking head yeeted.
I didn't know the guy who did that was Basque. I just knew that had happened, but I didn't realize that
just
like
yeeted.
I didn't realize that because I don't know my Spanish history super well, and I was interested to find out how like few Spaniards did much to resist Franco compared to it was the Basques that were the militant factions, as everyone was just kind of waiting for him to die, you know, like
I mean because the Catalans got crushed,
right,
you know, and like the Catalans just couldn't do anything, and then I mean if you just look at the topography of Spain, once the Catalans lost, it's like the Basques are the only hope.
Yeah, because no one was like bold enough to like start another civil war. You know, I mean, like it was really bad the first time.
Yeah, well, and also, you know, if you can't actually get like genuine, okay, well, I mean, we're pulling this back to Ukraine and Russia right now, but like if you can't actually get full-on support from an outside major power to actually form and arm an army, you're not going to do anything against Franco. Like it's not going to happen, right? And the only place where it's even feasible to resist militarily is the Basque Country because it's just mountains. So there's only one way in and one way out, and they can just shoot at you, right? But the rest of Spain, you know, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. You know, like the topography of Spain does not lend itself to insurgencies.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, let's talk about this language they're not allowed to speak in, because I think that's the big first like third of the book. I think is a kind of like maybe not third, but like first few chapters feel really committed to like talking about the language because that's what's so fucking weird about them. That's why the Basques are so weird.
Yeah. I just wish that we knew more. And maybe we do. Maybe Kurlansky doesn't have access to all of the information.
the archives that we
there.
could yeah.
Yeah, but I wish that we knew more, because it like really seems like this is an almost primeval language.
Yeah, so because that's the thing. So this is so the Basques, if you're not familiar, have the only language in Europe that is not an Indo-European language. Like, we do not know where it came from. It is not connected to any other languages. And then even more confuddling is the one time we saw some similarities between them was with them, and I don't remember who it was, but a Native American language. Like,
Yes!
what?
I was yes. Yeah, it's crazy. Which is like the thing that lends itself to, like, you know, Basques like to boast that they went to the Americas, and
Before
then
the
you
Vikings,
go and and then you like look at some of these, like the names and it's like some of the linguistic stuff that's going on with some of those like New England native tribes, and you're like, oh shit, did the Basques get here?
Yeah, I think I might be Basque pilled. I think they might have gone and traded in New England. Oh, Kelly's calling our bullshit. God damn it.
I was gonna say, I don't know about New England, but the Basques were in Texas. They always say remember the Alamo, but they never say remember the Basques, and the Basques were at the Alamo.
Oh, so well, yeah, because there is the diaspora. Like, they start coming over, because they play a huge role.
Many original Tejanos are of Basque descendants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, think about it locationally, right? They're the big shipper. You know, they're whalers. They are fishermen, etc.
They're going
they know how to
further
do
than
boats.
everyone else is going.
And then,
then
when the new world comes around, no, this is how this connects to Texas. When the new world, like, you know, once European colonization starts taking place, they are located in Spain and France, two of the most major colonial forces. So Basques, being good ship makers, get pulled into that project, and so Basques were, you know, often they're at the ground floor, of a lot of horrible stuff. Like so kind of an L, but
yeah. But yeah, I just think I'm with you a little bit, Josiah, where I'm like just very slightly Basque pilled on this. Of like, holy, did they do it?
Did they do it first?
And we just like, and we just like don't really have good records of it, and they probably maybe even didn't know what they had done. But did they do it?
I think they did, because Kurlansky makes a really good case for it too. That like we often have a really hard time knowing the behaviors of like fishermen or whalers, because they obviously don't want to tell people where they went, because then they are getting rid of their monopoly on a good fishing spot, you know? So like that explains why it would not have a written record, because they were keeping it a secret, because they had like a monopoly on whales essentially in Europe. And so like, of course they didn't want to tell anyone.
Yeah. And like, maybe you like left a dude behind for a little while to like man a station, so that like, hey, the next time we come back here, like we've got a place to like moor the boat up or something.
Well, and it's not even, like, I mean, I'm also thinking of, I'm thinking of the Basques in Iceland too. It's like, it's not that crazy to see them as like kind of, you know, over there just a little farther, you know?
Yeah, right. They made it to Iceland. It's not that far to Greenland. And once you make it to Greenland, it's really not that far.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's how the Vikings did it, of course. You know, Norse.
Exactly.
Norse,
They just, I mean, you know, they island hopped in a different way.
No, yeah, I'm kind of sold on that. But I'm trying to think of the other medieval history here I mean, it goes back to ancient, like they appeared with like Romans too, right? There's like kind of Roman records of the Basques wanting to be left alone, you know, even back as that far. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the order, because I kind of read this book in chunks with gaps, so I'm trying to remember it all.
Because basically the story is that the Basques really didn't care if you went through; they just care if you stayed.
Yeah, and so, specifically like, tried to change their traditions or whatever.
Yeah, and so it's like, you know, basically like the Romans came through, they conquered the Iberian Peninsula and Gaul on their way up to Britain. And then they like tried to go through Basque land, and the Basques were like, no, this is where we live. You can come through. That's fine. But like, you don't own us. Go on.
And I mean, that is the consistent history. Yeah.
Get
Yeah,
fucked.
but we don't care if you use the road, but just you don't get to stay.
Yeah.
We're tripping way, way ahead. So this is something that I want to talk about as we kind of like wrap the conversation up eventually about the like kind of nationalism question and stuff vis-a-vis all of this. Because I think it's complicated.
Let's do just because there's not a ton to say about the medieval stuff anyway. Let's get through it, and then I think that's where we're going to spend a lot of time, because that's also in that 1848 episode we did. That's where we spent a lot of our time too, was talking about nationalism. Mm-hmm. I think it's something on both our minds. But before nationalism is the Middle Ages, and they found the Jesuits. That's, I think, the most notable thing to come out of that period, and they did a lot of whaling.
A lot of whaling, and maybe beat Adam Smith to capitalism.
Yeah, there's a case for that kind of being made in here, that they might have been kind of the originators of it, despite later on being a kind of consistent resisting to capitalism as time goes on.
Which is something that I find very interesting about them, and that I also want to continue talking to you about, because man, this group of folks, man. They are wild. I think I said to you when we first started doing it, it's it just seems like just being stubborn as shit is the only way to live.
Yeah.
That's these people. They're just stubborn as shit.
It's kind of worked out for them. I mean, can you think of many cultures that existed prior to the Roman Empire that are still just hanging out in Europe right now? I mean, that are
holy
just shit.
Yeah, we're basically the same.
Just a direct continuity like that is very interesting in a way that you just don't see that anywhere else in Europe, really. I mean, it's everything in Europe is after Rome, pretty much. But
Jesus, man, my notes are a mess. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Man, the next time we do this, I actually do have to do a Word doc and have actual thoughts that are cognizant.
Half of this book was just a series of interesting fun facts and stuff too. So if that ends up being what we're doing, that's fine, because that's kind of what's the book's best at. It's just being isn't this weird?
Isn't it though? It is quite.
So was it was through whaling that they would be kind of the early progenitors of capitalism, right? They weren't, it wasn't
yeah.
Well, I'm trying, it was they had a monopoly on a resource, and they were, building up kind of infrastructure around it and stuff.
Yeah, and they're so they had traders who were just more on the cutting edge of things, more on the cutting edge of that stuff. And then that also gave. It's interesting. He talks about it a little bit in the book that the coastal towns, it reflects the pattern of development in so many other ways that has happened in the world. The coastal towns, get that money, right? And then the places that are a little more inland stay more, traditional.
Yeah.
So the Basques, they stay a little more conservative.
Yeah. Although Basques are weird for this reason. Yeah, because they do kind of both, right? I mean,
but the coastal towns get the money, and then the inland towns stay conservative, and they kind of keep each other in tension. So the whole region kind of, this is the fucking libertarian wet dream of the rising tide lifts all boats type situation.
Yeah.
Money is flowing through the Basque region, but they are keeping their identity for a while. For a while. It doesn't hold because it can't hold.
Right, it can't. And
because the tensions of capitalism and then the tensions of the oncoming industrial revolution, which the Basque Country is also at the forefront of, are just necessarily tearing at the social fabric, right?
Yeah.
There's no way to go ahead.
They're really at I was going to say, they're really at just ground zero of capitalism. That's what I was going to say. They just really it even kind of when we think of the coming of capitalism, we think of Britain, but I think the Basques have them beat even a little more.
I think they might,
or it's
by
around
a
the
little
same
bit,
time at
but
least.
like they're
yeah.
just like it's such a small area that it's not influential on the world stage. It's influential locally quite a lot, and it's like the foundation of Spain in its like crippled state through the late 1800s and early 1900s. Right? Like the Basque country is like the heartbeat of Spain for that period of time, but it's not at all like the way that England ends up transforming.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious me, England.
Yeah, but the 1800s is kind of like you said, it's ripping at the social fabric. This is the period where if Basques like did lose their identity for a bit, it was what kind of the 1800s and early 1900s on until the Franco regime, right? Is when they really started to reassert themselves during the Franco.
What is old boy's name? Who was the big dude? Oh goodness gracious! Arana, Sabino Arana.
Right.
Yep. Here we go on page 164. Sabino Arana was a fanatic, perhaps a lunatic, certainly a racist, a man who spent his life in a hot-headed fury, dying young and absurdly. But this is the guy who also like codified the Basque language in written form and in literary form. Like turned the Basques into a nation in the way that we think about it. Very complicated. Big old
Very
asshole.
Complicated.
Also, that's the Basques.
Yeah, that's the Basques. I mean, because he's a piece of shit. Like, but he's also he's also doing important stuff for the national project, and I think it takes. I mean, I would say it takes until more the early 1900s, mid 1900s for like the kind of left wing nationalism that finally kind of was more the case with Basque nationalism. Like, it took a little longer, I think, before it got there. But Sabino, he is straight out of late 1800s nationalism. This is post 48 stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's a reactionary nationalist.
Yeah, this is like what he's writing around the time of like the Dreyfus affair and stuff like this is when really some. I mean, the progenitors to fascism, I mean, frankly, are getting vocal. Yeah.
Man, a thing that he doesn't do enough in this is talk about Atletico Bilbao.
Oh yeah.
This is a complete diversion, but Atletico de Bilbao is the soccer team in Bilbao, as the name might tell you.
Mm-hmm.
They have a policy of nobody plays on our team who isn't Basque.
Yeah, right. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. There's that's kind of the ugly side of it too.
It can be sometimes,
but they're also like the minority in Spain, and so like it also makes sense that they want to be assertive of their national identity in light of not being allowed to speak their fucking language.
Exactly, like we are the Basque team. No one but a Basque can play for us.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the United States. No, not the United States. In our like region of the world, you go to Chivas de Guadalajara.
Mm-hmm.
They don't sign anyone who's not a Mexican.
Right.
You have to be a Mexican to play for Chivas. And on some level, it's like,
yeah.
And then on the other level, it's like,
yeah, you've been kind of,
I get that.
Yeah, forced to not have this identity or whatever. Yeah.
Like, it's, if you just want to have Mexicans on your team, that's fine. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, but like you could sign this dude from over here and he'd make your team better. But they don't want to do that.
They don't want to do that. No.
And like Bilbao, they don't win leagues.
Mm-hmm.
But they're always pretty good.
Always pretty good.
They're always pretty good. No, they are. Shit. Okay, where were we here?
We're kind of talking about this rising nationalism and Sabino Arana.
Well, yeah. Okay. Here we go. Arana. Maybe we should talk about the contradictions with local control and revanchism. So like this is kind of leading up to something I was talking about earlier. Like Arana is a fucking bag of dicks.
Mm-hmm.
But he sucks. And if he had ever, been able to wrest local control away from the central government in Spain and towards the Basque country. Do we think that's good?
I have a hard time with Iran. Yeah, because he lays out some pretty horrific policy moves. If I recall right, like
yeah, and we can like look at this here in the United States, right, where we've got a ton of local control, and it is
not always great.
Not good.
Yeah, it doesn't always work out. Yeah,
but then you have to balance that. You have to balance that with, okay, but like, what's going on over here that's worth preserving culturally? Mm-hmm. This is a thing that I think we all need to like grapple with as we're going forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as the as the national question, I think is reappearing, as we kind of talked about in that 1848 fruitless episode we did. It's worth kind of grappling with this again, I think.
Yeah, and as we're going forward with any sort of like truly democratic project, because I think you and I both agree that like we don't get socialism without democracy, and there's no true democracy without socialism. But like, okay, but like, what does that mean in the context of Eastern Tennessee and Central Iowa?
Yeah.
What does democracy mean in those places? And like the extent to which there can be this like, it's hard to talk about, because in the context of Spain, the Basques are a minority. Mm-hmm. In the context of the Basque country, they're obviously a majority. Yeah. So shouldn't they have a run over what's going on here? And that's what makes things difficult. And I don't know if maybe Chimera wants to pop in here at all, because like I am kind of at a loss to how to like figure this stuff out.
Yeah. No, I am too.
I just don't know. You know?
Yeah.
We try to be like, oh yeah, the American Constitution protects minority rights, and we're living in a United States that protects minority rights, which is actually just the minority rights of the majority white people. And that's a bunch of bullshit. But like, how do we protect the minority rights of people who like have a slightly different identity to us? It's just, I think this is a complicated question.
Yeah,
that I don't have the answers to in any way. And I'm not trying to propose an answer to it all.
No, I don't. Well, one thing I would ask though is, how do you feel about like the kind of autonomous region kind of conclusion that the Basques kind of have in the last few decades or whatever, as it kind of wraps up?
Yeah, I think that is well, okay. I would say that like that feels stopgappy.
Yeah, like it doesn't actually address the problem quite.
But yeah, and also, okay, from the Spanish perspective, they probably feel like that was a mistake, mm-hmm. because that gives the Catalans leverage to try to break away.
Yeah, which I think we've seen those protests from that in the last few decades, right? Yes. That's kind of manifested.
Exactly. And then from a like European wide perspective, okay, well, if Scotland or Northern Ireland or Wales leave the UK, how's Spain going to treat that? Because what they don't want is to embolden separatist movements in their own countries. They want to keep their own territorial integrity. So this is why I'm saying that it is a really weird and difficult question to approach that I'm not sure has a correct answer. I'm not sure if it even has an answer.
No,
It's worth a discourse about, though, because even though, for instance, any one of us may not have a whole lot of cultural similarities with a Basque person, something to note is that generally Basque societies are are better about gender relations and feature women more prominently in their histories and their folklore and their public ceremonies and their economic engagements. Like women were a lot more involved in that. So there's, I don't know, it's just like that, just to be a little cheesy, it's like that you learn so much from another person.
Yeah, well, and in that sense, they actually might model democracy better than other aspects of Europe, right? Because women are play a bigger role, and I mean, you know, the like basic fact that it feels like obvious to point out, but still seems to be pointed out like frequently is like women make up 50% of the population, and a lot of decisions and a lot of you know, even histories are written without 50% of the population in mind. Democracy by necessity needs to account for the thoughts, feelings, and emotions and political behaviors of 50% of the population, I would think.
Now,
Yeah.
I will say that Basque culture still has like the patriarchal inheritance laws. Like when someone passes away, the property always stays within the name of a male. However, women were still prominent as leaders in the society in like in economic endeavors.
But I'm just like, I'm still just sort of like on the like, how do we do something like recognition of local differences while also
Maintaining a
understanding
democratic,
that,
unified
like,
country of some sort.
well, yeah, and also like understanding that, like, hey, you like need to like this is a whole thing here, and like we've got rules, and like just because you've lived this way for a long time doesn't mean that you get to like behave a certain way. But then like who decides?
But then who's the moral decider? Yeah, that's always the problem with this stuff is like,
yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you start just, you know, if you follow the logic of how the world should be organized, you know, based in these kind of like, I don't know, when you're like, oh, this is how everyone should behave, and this is, you know, we got to set this moral standard. We just kind of start making like our little like pet Stalin in our head, you know, like here's the guy who's going to grab control and make things right. And like we
exactly,
you know,
and I mean, so scared of becoming Joseph Stalin.
You're yes, Stalin.
I am so scared of being
Chris
that guy.
Chris Stalin. There we go.
So if you want to avoid that, all you have to do is go to a Tsoko, which is a gastronomical society that Basques form. It's like a men's club for cooking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He talks about that.
He does talk about that. Hey, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
Nice. I just learned about it on Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah. No, Kelly's catching up on who the Basques are.
No, I would love that.
I literally have open just the Wikipedia page for Basques, ?
We got Basques thin in the air, thin on the ground, just generally trim here in Chattanooga.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, that was an Eddie Izzard reference. You guys are too old for that shit, aren't you?
I did not get the reference, I hate to say. I hate not getting a reference. I want to be cool and cultured.
Kelly,
I'm sorry.
Did you get the Eddie Izzard reference?
I did not get it.
Bummer.
No.
It. Okay, well, Eddie is wonderful, and you should watch her stand-up specials at some point. Josiah, I need you to leave this moment of Chris being old in the to whatever
episode.
you do with this. Yeah. Eddie Izzard is wonderful, and I love her.
Did your author mention that these Tsokos, these gastronomical societies, were closed off to women?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
He did mention that. Gender is
that's very interesting. I think that's and I think it's actually, I mean, first of all, it sucks, of course, that women are excluded. However, something is very wholesome to me about a bunch of men just getting together to cook.
Yeah, sure.
You know what
that's
I mean?
Not a bad thing necessarily.
Yes. I there's like not a great way to like defend men's only institutions. like ever.
Yeah.
Like there's not, but
But
But imagine if these societies existed with women. That would just mean that the women would be cooking in the kitchen and the men would be doing the socializing part of it.
that's a good point.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
So
yeah.
I think it's very nice that
Exactly.
there's men actually like practicing the art of cooking, and they're doing it in a communal sense. I think that's really nice.
Yeah. Well,
yes,
and
exactly. I think there's like a lot of ways for these like men's social clubs to just be like dudes being dudes or whatever, and then like in the background are women still like doing
laboring.
all of the actual
Yeah.
work for them.
Right.
But
right.
a situation like this where it's like we're cooking, like that's
dudes getting together and
that's
cooking.
the dudes doing the work, and then
Look,
they're gonna fucking clean that up.
As long as my future Basque husband brings me home a leftover plate, he can go to as many men's only societies as he wants.
God damn it. I just introduced her to the Basques and now she's going to leave me for a Basque. God damn it.
But like I also kind of remember this thing that my dad did when I was in college, and you know, he would get together with a bunch of dudes and they would brew beer.
Yeah.
And it was only dudes. I don't think they would have necessarily been like averse to having a woman there, but like it was just dudes,
just how it
and
happened.
they were brewing beer.
Right.
And then they would finish and they would clean up, and then a month later they would drink the beer. And like there's nothing wrong with that.
No, yeah. You know, I think
You
where
know?
where it gets
But
a
it
little
also
iffy
still
with
does
the
feel weird.
well, where it gets a little iffy with the Basques is it's important, like food is really important to the Basque cultural identity.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a little bit them kind of like making sure women don't you know, get involved with this you know, important.
Oh wait, holy shit. Is this the fucking start of French of chef culture?
The
I don't know
Basques?
that Kurlansky. Yeah, I don't know that Kurlansky really made this connection, but is this the fucking start of chef culture?
That's so interesting if it is. The Basques are literally behind everything. I'm Basque build, bro.
Like, but like seriously, you know, like you think about like restaurants and like who's in charge of the kitchen in any sort of an industrial or a commercial sense, and it's always a dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did the fucking Basques do that?
I think they did. I don't know. I can't corroborate that. I shouldn't just say.
Okay. Also, well, no, I'm speculating right now too. Also, though, I do want to talk a little bit, just a thing we texted about the like Basques are like the northernmost spicy likers.
Oh yeah.
I just think that is fascinating. That like
they like their spicy
that's as
foods.
Far north as you can grow a spicy pepper.
Right. Okay. Yeah. This was a whole big thing for their culture too, right? Was like spicy peppers were like a big deal, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
It's crazy to me because have you ever grown a pepper? Peppers are really easy to grow. I grew peppers in the desert in Texas, and they were totally fine.
Apparently, they get spicy in the Basque regions in a way they don't in other parts of Europe. So,
really?
like, yeah.
So there's a now, Kelly, don't quote either Josiah or I on this, and maybe perhaps don't even quote Mark Kurlansky. But apparently, because I don't think Mark Kurlansky's a fucking plant biologist. But apparently, when you get into northern latitudes, the like capsaicin and peppers just like doesn't fire quite right. And so like you could grow a habanero in Spain and it won't be as spicy as a habanero as you grow in Florida.
I think it's related to I think it's related to the sun or something. I know
That's
this
crazy.
is a thing.
That's so crazy. I had no idea peppers were so temperamental.
They are, yeah.
I actually have a question for you guys. The book, did it talk a lot about religion?
Yes and no. The first half, I would say, especially in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
It's not
I am curious because I I wanted to hear some of y'all's thoughts, some things that came up about religion. The one thing that I thought was cool that I found on the Wikipedia is that as a burst of Protestantism in the Basque community, the New Testament was translated into Basque.
Oh, interesting.
As
He
part of
actually
the
did
Protestant
not.
movement.
He
So
did
I just
not
thought that
talk
was
about
really
that.
interesting. I just thought that was very interesting.
I don't really remember that being something that he talked about very much.
I don't think he does
because
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I remember that he talked a lot about the fact that like the kind of pagan beliefs held on for much longer than in most of the rest of continental Europe. But then when the Basques converted, they converted hard.
Yeah, they made me think of the Irish with this, where because of that they had kind of indigenized Catholicism that they kind of ended up with because of that. You know, it's similar to like, you know, Ireland holds on to like Celtic pagan beliefs like a lot longer than other chunks of Europe, but then when they become Catholic, they have a very, you know, Celtic Catholicism becomes a very distinct flavor. You know, it's kind of
Yeah, Basque
and so it made me
Catholicism
think
seems
of Basque
pretty flavorful.
Well, they were the host of several missionaries, right?
Yeah,
Like
and
they
also
were the source of a bunch of people who became missionaries.
yeah, and then as I've noted a couple times now, Ignatius of Loyola is Basque. So the Jesuits were founded by Basques.
The founder of the Society of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Our dude himself.
Our dude himself.
Actually, man, look, say what you want about the Jesuits.
They're okay.
They are fine.
Yeah, they're you know what's disappointing. You know what? Actually, you know this is not my time to start having my gripes about various Catholic.
Yeah, man.
I was about to just be like, I was just. Yeah, you're an atheist. I'm an Episcopalian, and we just get on this call, and I'm like, you know, and another thing about the Franciscans, let me tell you,
the goddamn Benedictines.
These fucking. No, but yeah.
You know what? Like broad swathe of things. Jesuits, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's basically where I come down on them. Is like, yeah, you're fine.
So let's see. We have the religion of the Basques. So yeah, it's they're very very pretty emphatically Catholic. So that's why I'm interested by you mentioning Basque Protestants, because I don't remember Basque Protestants really coming up in the book unless I missed it.
Yeah, I don't think he really talked to the. I don't remember Kurlansky talking about Basque Protestants at all in the book. But I would also be surprised if it wasn't a part of Basque history at some point, because, like, what part of Europe didn't undergo the Protestant Reformation?
Yeah. Like even the emphatic Catholic countries still have, like, I mean, the Huguenots exist, right? Like it's
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just there's no way to avoid it, no matter where you are in Europe. There are Protestants in Italy.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no way to fucking avoid it.
It sounds like the translation that I brought up of the New Testament into Basque, it was by a 16th century priest. So that would have been right around the time.
That would have been right fresh in the Reformation. That would make sense.
So
Scotty.
So that's very interesting. And I think it's very interesting that it was a translation of just the New Testament, not the Old.
Yeah, that is interesting, actually.
Now, Chimera, is there evidence that translation was done specifically by a Protestant, like a priest that was like going into Protestantism, or was it a priest that was inspired by Protestantism to translate?
Yeah,
the New
is it
Testament
a Reformation thing or a counter Reformation?
Yeah,
thing?
So he was baptized as a Catholic, and then it says, although it's not known where, he was trained as a priest and then converted to Protestantism during his training in 1560.
Okay.
So
at that point, he's either Lutheran or Calvinist.
Right.
So it doesn't say. Let me see if I can find that out. I'm actually interested in that question.
Yeah. But aside from that, I would say like Catholic identity is a big part of their nationalism as well. So that's also where this does become important.
This is interesting. Do you want to hear something?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
He is one of the first authors to have used the term Basque country.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
I feel like he should have come up in the book.
So that phrase.
Well, now hold on. Hold on. There
came
is
from this religious writer.
Hey, Kelly, what's the name?
Joannes, Joanes, and then last name is Leizarraga, Lizarraga.
Oh, he's okay. He was one of the early attempts at standardizing Basque language. Did we just are we just forgetting a chunk in the book that talked about this? Because this sounds like something
I think we might, but I'm also not. Sorry, I'm looking in the index and I'm not seeing this guy.
Okay, so maybe he really did just miss this, because which is kind of interesting. I will say he does kind of blaze past the Middle Ages pretty quick. I mean, it's like a chapter or two.
Yeah, I don't
popular
fault this
history
author for leaving that out, because I mean Catholicism was still the dominant wing, even though there was this New Testament material available because of a Protestant.
Yeah, well, and he's chomping at the bit to talk about nationalism and Francoist Spain. Really, like you could tell that's where he wants to go with this.
Yeah, he wants to get there because he wants
that's
to get
what he's
to
most
what he
interested
lived
in.
through.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
which I don't blame him for it. I mean, if I was writing the book, I'd probably do the same. I'd get kind of bored with some of the Middle Ages stuff and be like, let's get to the the terrorism and shit. That's the interesting stuff.
Right. Well, okay, but can we talk a little bit about the position of the Basques in the Civil War?
In the American Civil War? It's the Spanish Civil War.
Spanish Civil War.
Okay, I thought you were about to blow my mind. I was like,
no, because the Basques were on the side of Franco at the beginning of the Spanish Civil War,
and then switched, right?
Well, they switched once Franco won, and Franco was a bag of dicks to him, which is why you should never ally with fascists.
Yeah, they're gonna turn on you, dumbass.
They're gonna turn on you. Like, if you are a minority, don't ally yourself with fascists.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, if you're any person of good conscience, don't ally yourself with fascists.
Okay, pragmatically, if you're a minority, it is not a good strategy. If you're a white person, morally, you should not join the fascists on a moral level.
There we go. Pragmatically, if you are a minority, you're never going to win because they'll just come for you next. And if you are in the majority. Don't do it because that makes you a bad person.
Because then you're bad. Yeah. But yeah, no, so right, they fought on the side of the Francoists, right? And then they switched after
for the first part of it. Yeah. And then Franco won and then immediately started to do a repression against them. And they were like, hey, what's this all about? And they're like, well, look, man, it's the scorpion and the frog situation.
Yeah. we will both die.
Or whatever that dumb story is. Or you could just say I don't know, punch fascists in the face and tell them to eat shit every time you see them. But
it's this is a big part of a historical context as well with the 30s overall. It's just an embarrassing amount of Catholics supported Franco. And even ones that weren't necessarily right wing.
It kind of makes sense though, because one of the ways that they were oppressed culturally is that they were only allowed to have public gatherings via mass.
Right.
They weren't allowed to do some of the more paganistic rituals or practices that they did. I'm not familiar with those, but I just know that they weren't allowed to. That they were just allowed to go to church.
Yeah, so Catholicism was big
it makes sense that Catholics would be on board with that.
Yeah, it does also make a certain amount of sense that that Basque folks would see the Republic, which is an avowedly secular thing.
Yes, right.
an avowedly left-wing thing as a threat to them. So like I get it a bit. I do get it, and I get what you're saying as well. And this also sort of comes back to that question that we were talking about earlier, vis-a-vis like minority rights, regional rights, etc. It's like this is a question that is like potentially not resolvable on the scale of national identity. I don't,
well, because the tension, I think the tension between secularism and religion, especially when you're talking about a democratic or nationalist project, is I still don't think we have a very good answer for that question. I don't think so either. I think that's a kind of tricky question to answer, though, because like, man, are we just going to piss off Catholics this episode? Like the question of the French Revolution.
I don't want to piss off Catholics. Like, they're fine.
No, I don't. But like the questions of the French Revolution, right, are kind of this same thing, right? Where it's like, no, I don't like the burning of the churches and shit like that they did. But also, like, can you have a democracy with this like landed interest like this? Like I don't know. Like the role the church is playing. But
then the question, I think that's the bigger problem is that like, if the church is playing a role of landowner, then that's an issue.
And being an anti-democratic structure that holds a huge control over, like, say, the state or something like that. Like that's a tricky question. And so obviously the Basques see the burning churches side of republicanism, and they're like, well, I'm not joining on the republic. But it's also like, I don't know, like, but on the flip side, dude, democracy is going to help you guys out way more than Franco is. Like,
exactly. Like, and like, do you not see that the people,
it's tricky.
I don't want to be any clericalist or anything like that, but it's like, do you not see that like these people are like, okay, they're burning. All right. The burning of birth registries is actually a pretty like freeing thing for people.
Yeah.
Now it sucks for historians because I don't know where you came from.
Yeah, but also,
But if you are a person who is bound to the land and your birth registry is gone,
that was
you get to go.
That was the big aspect of the French Revolution, like some of the peasant uprisings, and then it plays a. I think did it play a role in Basque Land? I don't know if I missed that. Was there a lot of the burning of?
I'm not entirely sure, but like that was a significant part of the control apparatus.
Yeah,
is the like birth and baptismal registries because
maintains this is where you're from.
Still,
right.
Yeah, you're still bound to the land in certain ways.
In like an aristocratic system. You know what I mean? Like in a very real sense, you are either born a peasant or born in the aristocracy. Like it's
and
if burning
evidence
those records,
of your existence is erased, then you're free. You can go do whatever you want to do.
And so that's exactly a great representation, exactly of like where this whole anti-clericalism question gets a little tricky, because it's like, well, the Catholic Church, at least in this time, and Protestant churches as well elsewhere, like in England or whatever, they represent the landed interest. Like you're gonna have to do some breaking away. And and the thing is, and I think a lot of if a Catholic's listening to this, they probably would agree with this. I mean, Catholicism was better for these revolutions, because it was able to finally return to being about spiritual matters, and the politics could be like, like the liberation theology or something, where the politics become more about, opening itself up to democracy. I don't know if this would piss off Catholics or not, but I think that's ultimately the case, right?
I think you're probably onto something there, at least a little bit. It maybe took the Catholic Church, like
a little too long.
Any organization that is as big as the Catholic Church is going to take like a very long time to turn the ship around. But I mean, even the Counter-Reformation. Okay, like we say it's the Counter-Reformation, but
but it's the Catholic Reformation.
Good stuff in there.
Really. Yeah, well, because it was a reforming of the church and in light of the complaints that Protestantism brought in. And so, like,
and it was pretty good.
And I think it was good. Like, it's so funny, all the Catholic, the like return with a V Catholics, because like Catholicism is so much better now than it used to be. I like, and it has a lot of room to improve, of course. Like of course, I got my beefs, but like, man, I wouldn't want to be a Catholic 100 years ago. Right. I wouldn't want to be a fucking Catholic like 100 years ago when like error has no right was like a concept. Like a major, like that would suck. Oy.
How the fuck did we get on this?
Religion and the Basques. The Basques joined Franco in part because they were scared of the kind of stuff we're talking about right now. The democracy needing to kind of deal with the land and interests of the church. And
yes.
Yeah, which is
I even said this in my notes. I was like, church capture again, because Franco just captured the Catholic Church within Spain.
Yeah. Right? Oh yeah, and so many Catholics cheered it on worldwide. I mean,
okay. Here's a thing that I put in my notes that I shared with you. Okay, responsibility to protect. Are you familiar with that, like, kind of doctrine in like international relations? Yeah.
No, I don't. At least, okay, I mean, I know what those words mean, and I can kind of deduce what I think it means, but
Okay, so it's this thing that kind of it gained currency in the 90s with this idea that, like, when people and ethnic groups are being attacked, great powers have a responsibility to protect them.
To, like, intervene or whatever.
Yeah,
okay.
Right? Now,
this is a tricky one. This is,
brother.
Oh, man. Now, yeah, I mean, this is the argument on the left. I mean, thinking of, like, Yugoslavia and shit, right? Yeah, this is
the argument, period.
Yeah.
I think, when it comes to IR right now. And I will say that I spent most of the early 2000s going, and now I'm like, about it.
Yeah, it's a tricky question. Well, yeah, the reason I say it's an issue for the left, I say it's an issue for the left is because, like, if you're not on the left, you don't inherently have a problem with, like, American hegemony. But when you're on the left, you have a beef with American hegemony. And so then that's always the question is, like, well, is the NATO bombing campaigns in Yugoslavia in the 90s, is that, the enforcement of American hegemony, or is it the prevention of a genocide? I don't know how I feel about that question. I'm still really torn on it.
Okay, yeah, I will say that in general, I think we did the right thing. I think we needed to stop that. Now, the problem is the way that what I would say was a smart thing to do got generalized into everything else we did for about the next 20 years.
Well, because the 90s what we're doing. Yeah, because the 90s become like, well, you have Rwanda and you have Bosnia, and you have the case where the U.S. intervened and tried to stop a genocide, and then you had a time where the U.S. just kind of watched it happen. And so those kind of became the doctrine. It's like, you don't want to do a Rwanda, you want to do a Bosnia. That's the way to do it.
What we should have done is stopped Rwanda, and we did, in fact, stop what happened in Bosnia.
Yes.
However, I think it's a very case-by-case question, I think, is where I think probably something resembling my, position would be. I don't think you can make a hard rule out of this. I just don't know if you can make a hard rule out of this, because Iraq is the obvious example later on, right? Like, where it's like, well, that's, that kind of intervention obviously fucked over. Libya. And
Libya, I think, is the better one. Because
Iraq wasn't actually responsible to protect,
Yeah, I think that they tried to dress Iraq up into an R2P situation, but nobody bought that.
Yeah.
Nobody bought that. But Syria was sold to us as an R2P situation, and if it was, we would have done a lot more.
Yeah, there wouldn't be slave markets in Libya right now if we'd actually done that.
Oh yeah, sorry. I actually just missed those two up. Libya and Syria. But like with both places.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like with both places, if we really felt that we had a responsibility to protect, we would have done much more than we did.
Yeah.
But we didn't. We just like lobbed bombs on people.
Yeah. Mostly
like,
just killing civilians.
To protect,
yeah.
Yeah. Responsibility to protect also means like putting people there. Like there are still American soldiers, and people don't like this, but like there are still American soldiers in the former Yugoslavia right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they're there as a, hey, if you guys start shooting, we'll stop you. Because you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
You know? And like that's what we're doing in the Balkans. We weren't willing to do that for Libya, and we weren't willing to do that in Syria. We did this half-assed bullshit.
Yeah,
and now both countries kind of suck.
Syria. Oof.
Yeah, we nailed it in Syria. Things are going so well right now. What are you talking about?
Well, and now we've got Ukraine, where it's like all but a proxy war, which I hot take basically agree with everything we're doing, because I don't think what's going on is okay. Like, I don't think that Russia invading another country is something that we should like let happen. But like, there's no good solutions for anybody. And that's something that like is annoying when you hear people being like, why aren't we giving them more stuff? And it's like, because we don't want a nuclear war. Do you not understand how bad that would be?
Yeah.
Like, we can't have that happen.
Where does this, how do we pull this back into the Basques real quick? This
sorry.
Is an interesting detour, though.
What I would say is that, like, okay, so we've got, like, this R2P thing, which is the entire reason I wanted to bring this up in the first place, was that, like, you could have made a case for responsibility to protect during the Spanish Civil War. And that the fact that we did not go in there and protect meant that the Spanish Civil War ended up the way it did. I think that's the entire reason I brought it up in the entire beginning. And then from there, you've got this entire, like, 60-year trail of just horseshit Spanish politics and repression of minorities, which is what leads to the ETA, right? Who function essentially as the Basque IRA. And like, look, man, I can't blame these guys.
No, I can't either.
All of this like loops back into my whole like question about centralization and localization. It's like, I don't know how to synthesize this shit. I can't figure this out.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I think you mentioning this, like, the U.S.'s policy towards Spain also is kind of just an interesting question, like you mentioned too. Like, you know, Kissinger's whole thing was just like, we're just waiting for an old guy to die at this point. Like, that's our policy.
Right. Yeah, we're just waiting for Franco to die, and like Spain will be fine again. It's like, just kill him.
Honestly, though, like, you know, that's
like, I know you don't. Like, that would have been the one assassination that Kissinger could have ordered that I'd have been fine with. Like, yeah, what the fuck, dude? Just kill him. You know he's bad for the country.
And everyone in the fucking country hates him. Like, he's not a popular ruler at this point. Yeah, it's like stagnant fascism.
Like, it all devolves too, because there is no future in fascism.
That's an interesting chunk of Paxton's book, Anatomy of Fascism, too, is Spain being this weird exception, because it's like this, I don't know, like geriatric fascism. You know, it's like slow-moving fascism, because if you do normal fascism, it's a fucking death cult, and it dies in 5 years. But, you know, yeah.
But if you do slow fascism, it's just stagnation for your entire life, and there's no future for you. And why would you anyway?
Why would you do that?
I thought that there was after Franco died, the way that there was this like state capture of the socialists was really interesting.
Yeah.
The way that once the socialists like got power in Spain, like through elections, and then the apparatus of the state just like got them. I thought that was a thing that was potentially a lesson for those of us like me who kind of advocate electoralism in things of like, hey, don't let the state get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I mean that's exactly what happened in Spain. Yeah, and we really love to just like nosedive straight to like the most controversial subjects of the left. Yeah, let's talk about whether voting works. Let's go.
Yeah, I can't keep myself from it. I don't think this will be very controversial from the left, but I just like took a glimpse. My last note on that shared note that I had with you is also I hate Frank Gehry. Yeah. Fuck that dude. His stupid fucking buildings. I hate that dude. Dumb fucking buildings. I hate star architecture. It's all dumb. Why did you build that dumb building in Bilbao that leaks constantly? Stupid piece of shit. Hate him.
Truly fuck Frank Gehry, though.
And that actually kind of a little bit leads into like kind of the last thing that I had to like talk about. I don't know if you've got more that you want to talk about, but like one of the last
I feel like we've hit most
want to
of
talk
my
about.
Things.
Yeah, one of the last things that I wanted to talk about is the way that the Basque country has kind of been turned into Disneyland now. He kind of
that was super
a little bit. He talks a little bit in that last bit about how the Basque country is just a tourist destination now, and that seems to be the way that the Basques are like holding on to their cultural identity is to turn themselves into a snow globe. But like, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, that gets into a tricky relationship with your traditions and culture and stuff too. Once you commodify it, it changes it. Its relationship is altered, you know. So I don't know. Yeah, it's Basque. Kind of. I can't tell them what to do. Yeah, but it does end on kind of a bleak note on that front in a way. Even though the book I don't think is that bleak. Overall, it's actually not as depressing as probably some of the later books we're going to read in this series. But
oh, good Christ.
Yeah, sorry. Next up is late Victorian Holocausts, by the way.
It's going to be a bad time, everyone.
It's going to be such a bad time. Yeah, no, it does kind of.
We're going to be real sad for about 2 hours.
It's like, because this culture we've been reading about with this whole book finally builds up to just kind of becoming like, and now you can visit it, you know, and spend money.
Hey, congratulations! Now you're Epcot.
Yep. Wow. Yeah. Oh man, they're like an autonomous region, literally in a Disney World sense, kind of too, right? It's like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. That's a bummer.
Well, shit. I didn't mean to end it this way.
No. Yeah, we can find a nicer way to wrap it up, but I mean,
their language is really cool.
We could talk about how their super cool language is like super oppressed in the northern region because of France.
Yeah, well, France sucks,
France is still going after them.
France is on their national language shtick.
Yeah, France sucks ass.
Yeah,
News at 11.
And so they go after the Basques for their public education systems being in Basque.
I mean,
they don't let them. They make their schools be in French, even though they're functionally in an autonomous state. I mean,
well, when has that ever stopped the French?
Yeah.
Again, sorry to quote Eddie Izzard yet again. Don't get me wrong, I like the French, but they can be kind of French.
It is true. I mean, I was gonna say, like, France's nationalism, I think it skirts under the rug. I feel like people don't address it as much. Like, I remember a lot of people would
agree.
talk really, really lovingly in college. Some of the poli-sci majors I knew talk really lovingly about the French secularism approach of, like, making it illegal to preach in public and stuff like that. But it's being used to enforce against, like, people would not get what I was trying to say when I would say this. But it was like, yeah, but it's not like it really oppresses Christians that much. Like, it's not like it's actually, like, making a secular space, because if you go to Paris, you stay in places called like Saint Denis, named after saints, but
Saint
like
Denis.
yeah, exactly, as what that really gets enforced on is like burqas and stuff. That's what it's used for.
Yeah, sorry, hold on, this is when you two were in college?
Yeah, there was some poli-sci majors that I guess discovered France and were really excited about it.
This is dumb shit. That's a dumb shit argument that was happening when I was in high school, and I saw through that shit. Like, how in the dicks are people still falling for that crap? Like,
I know the secularism thing is not. It's because it's usually people who just are really like the.
It's just an excuse. It's just an excuse. Excuse. It's just an excuse. It's just an excuse to be a fucking white nationalist. That's all it is.
That's what I'm fucking saying. This is what I'm always saying.
That's all it is. It's
always been that way.
Just an excuse to be racist.
It's always been, but it's people in the U.S. like baby's first poli-sci course kind of have that mindset, and they know a lot of the problems about America is because of religious fundamentalists, and so they really fantasize about the secularist model, but like I don't know, as a avowed Democrat, small d, not like Democratic Party, but like I am a Democrat.
No, fuck those guys.
It's not just secularism is the approach, it's pluralism. That is what we want. Right. A pluralistic society, not a secular one. Because a secular one
where
is
everyone's got a voice.
Yeah, a secular one is one where you are still enforcing one religious system. Like, it's obvious, right? Like, it fucks over Sikhs, it fucks over Muslims, it fucks over everyone. I was also going to say, France, when it comes to the nationalism shit, okay, here's my favorite fun fact, and by that I mean it's a big downer.
They do have a very base national anthem, though.
That's true, but I will say, okay, well, I'll show the cards here. France was the most, the last country to deport Roma, to do a expulsion of Roma. What year was it? Can you guess?
That's bad, bro.
What year was it, though?
I'm gonna guess last one.
It was 2010 was the last expulsion of Roma in Europe, and it was France that did it. So cool. Dope.
Well, that's
the most recent European country to do Nazi shit.
Was the French.
Not
even the fucking Germans. Okay.
Anyway, so there's still. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Rosa is cry.
Okay.
So I need to take the dogs out, and I think we need to probably wrap up for the night.
All right, let's do it. So, fuck the French.
This was, fuck the French. We need to have that be our sign off.
That'll come up in late Victorian Holocausts, I'm pretty sure.
I know. So we'll just have as our sign off, fuck the French.
Fuck the French.
This has been Josiah and Chris read a book.
That's
with
right.
Chimera.
With Chimera. Hell yeah. All right, let's get out of here. You did it. You got through an episode of Fruitless. That's awesome. I'm thinking about launching a Patreon. Actually, I technically did launch a Patreon. I just don't have a plan of what's going to be on it. So I'm going to have that link in the show notes. Right now, I am just going to read the patrons at the end of episodes right here, this part of the show. This is where I will do that in the future. Aside from that, I am planning some bonus content and stuff like that as well as time goes on, and I'm just kind of trying to treat Fruitless as a free blank space right now that I can just a blank slate. A blank slate is the word I'm looking for. I can just do whatever I want with it. So look forward to that, and yes, there is also some video content in the work on YouTube. You do see that in the show notes there is a YouTube channel, so hopefully you'll be seeing more of that. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you also to Chris Barker for being on here, and my girlfriend Kelly/Chimera for joining this episode. It was a blast. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.